Howdy, folks, and welcome to Tiny Tent Show, episode number 24. Tonight's featured guest is Michael Laughingfox Charette, in a show that includes flute music, storytelling, and drum songs with the Little Turtle Singers from Redcliffe. Michael tells us that tonight's performance will include honor songs for the lake, honor songs for missing indigenous women, and stories of hope that reach into an ancient place of healing and oneness with nature. And a little later on, I'll have a visit with Laughingfox, and we'll get to know him and his background a little better. We sure are grateful for you taking time out of your day to get together with us. We're especially grateful to our sponsors. Hang around till the end of the show and we'll run through them by name. We're just terrifically happy that you take the time to sit down with us each week at Tiny Tent Show. So let us now venture up the road and up the hill that overlooks Lake Superior and the Apostle Islands. Put ourselves inside that beautiful blue and pearl gray canvas and enjoy the art of Michael Laughingfox Charette.
Aha, buju indanawe maganak. Hello to all my relatives out there. Bape Wagush Nindigenikaj. Laughingfox is my name. My English name is Michael Scooter Charette, and I'm a member of the Redcliffe Band, Lake Superior, Chippewa, and I'm a Native American storyteller and flute player. And I am deeply honored that Big Top and the people and the folks that work at Big Top have invited me up to share my flute stories and some of my own personal journey and what the flutes mean to me. And the flute story and the way that goes is one of love and unconditional love. And each one of the flutes that I have up here all have their own unique voice and their own unique story. So when it comes time for me to come up and do a presentation, I'd like to display all my flutes out there. And then as I go through and begin the sharing process, I know like each one has its very own story and its very own spirit. And these flutes have given me many gifts as long as I keep on sharing that. And that's part of the Anishinaabe culture, the sharing of knowledge and the sharing of stories to ensure that we live on in that sense. The Anishinaabe in this area are oral traditions, and our stories go way back to the Ice Age. We have creation stories that talk about the flood. We have creation stories where they talk about the world forever being cold. And as far as up in this area, with the flutes and the drum all coming together, I'm really honored to be able to get a chance to share all this with you today. So, Chimigwich. Today, as a special guest up here on stage joining me today is the Little Turtle Singers from Redcliffe. Aho, Chimigwich. You guys for joining me. They'll be doing some drum songs, some different kinds of songs, honor songs for the lake, some honor songs for the missing, murdered, and indigenous women movement that's going on right now. You know, usually for the Anishinaabe, we tell stories in the wintertime, and that's when we're all kind of confined to one wigwam, and we listen to our elders in there around the fire tell us stories, while we wait for the elements to ease up so we can go out and continue on our life's journey. And with the coronavirus, going on right now, everybody's kind of in quarantine right now, and it's almost like it's wintertime for everybody, and everybody's kind of coming together and huddling around these fires and sharing stories that inspire us with hope, because there's a lot of disarray going around out there in the world. But these songs that we're going to share today is like reaching into the past, and it's reaching into an ancient place, of healing, of one with nature and harmony. And I'll be sharing with you today the creation story of the Native American flute. It is Wigwam in the Native American language, And I like that word, Wigwam, to represent this particular instrument. It's really closely related to the word Wigwam, which means flower. And I kind of imagine the music kind of coming out of the flute and flowering out of the flute when I hear those words. So a long time ago in a village, there was a young man, and this young man had this his heart's desire. He looked over, he seen this woman, and he was in love with her, and he was about that courting age, and he would go up to her and he would try to talk to her, but nothing would come out. And this kind of like frustrated him in a way. So he would he would kind of stay away and he'd watch as other young men of courting age would go up and speak with her. And, this really frustrated him. So what he ended up doing then is he heard in the old stories that that there was this ayabi that carried the love medicine within it. And he thought to himself, if he could hunt this ayabi, then he would be able to give this love medicine to her, and that would show her just how he felt. So he packed up provisions for days, and he packed up his bow and arrow, and he went out into the woods, and he found the biggest set of tracks out there, and he thought to himself, this is it. This has got to be the ayabi, the huge albino buck that lives to the west. So he follows these tracks into the woods for days and days on end, not taking a rest. And as he's following them in deeper and deeper into the woods, he sees the ayabi out of the corner of his eye, just a flash. He pulls back his bow and arrow, and he's gone. And this happened to him throughout his journey. Finally, exhausted, he found a great cedar tree, and he made a fire underneath this cedar tree. And as he sat there listening, to the crackling of the fire, he was half awake, half asleep, that in-between place of dreams. And the wind had picked up, and he had heard a sound. He drifted to sleep with that in his mind, and the next day he was awoken to a knocking. And he opened up his eyes and he looked around, and he looked up into the tree, and he saw on the branch there was a bird. And the bird was dancing, and it was knocking holes into that branch. And the bird flew away, and as the bird flew away, the wind hit across that branch, and it made that sound. And he heard that sound, and he knew instantly that was the sound he was searching for. So he reached up into the tree, grabbed a hold of the branch, and he broke it off. And as he's looking at it, examining it, he's trying to figure out how to make that sound come out of that branch. So he starts to blow on it this way. He's blowing on it this way. He's even going like this, trying to get the wind to come across it, but to no avail. So, as he had learned, he took some tobacco, and he put it in the fire, and he prayed to the spirit of that bird. And as he sat there waiting for an answer, he went to sleep. And in his dream, the bird appeared to him and asked him what it was he was seeking. And he told him his dilemma. He told him the story about his heart's desire and about how he couldn't communicate his feelings to her. And the bird listened. And finally, he told him the secret of how to make that sound. He taught him how big to make the flute. He taught him where to put the holes in the flute. And he said, when you play this flute, he goes, you have to close your eyes and you have to imagine your heart's desire there. And he said, you have to feel it. And he says, when you blow it into the flute, when you blow it into the Bibiguan, it'll come out and it'll Wabiguan out into the world. So with this knowledge, he created the first flute in the woods, and he brought it back to his village, to his people. And he sat up on a hill, and he closed his eyes, and he could see all the people on there working. And he closed his eyes, and he put the flute to his lips, and he started to blow with the image of his heart's desire here and feeling it here. That music, that sound made its way down and through the hills to where all the people were working. Some of them were drying out meats. Some of them were dancing wild rice. Some of them were gathering berries, getting ready for the next season. But when that sound had hit them, everybody stopped what they were doing. Nobody had ever heard a sound like that before. They stopped what they were doing and they looked around and they took a moment for themselves, and they just took that moment. Finally, the music made its way to the wigwam of the young woman. And as soon as she heard that sound, she knew instantly that that was for her. And she came out of her wigwam and she looked up to where the source of the sound was, and she could see the young man sitting up on the hill alone. And she knew who he was. You know, she always wondered why he wouldn't talk to her. So she went up and she stood next to him. And as she listened to the song, she was so amazed that somebody could express so much emotions without uttering a single word. And as she listened, she realized that the music was intertwining their souls together. Little Turtle Singers, Chimi Gwitch. Maybe a little bit of info on that last song we sang. The words in it, Ogichidakwe, means warrior women, and I believe that was an honor song. A jingle dress honor song for all those out there who are looking for that healing and looking for that hope when coming together. Chimi Gwitch. One thing that I had learned about these flutes is that they are truly a healing instrument. When I first started playing, I started on the shores of Lake Superior. In the woods for a couple of years, I played by myself, only listening to my environment. You know, I was immersed in my environment. I don't know how to read music. I just kind of feel this as I go through. And a few years after playing in the woods, I was working at a coffee shop, and I drank a lot of coffee in there. I'd get all the jitters at like 10 in the morning, and I'd be released from work, and I'd sit on the street corner and play. And people started stopping, and they started tipping me. I was like, oh, wow. And then before I knew it, there was people stopping that said that they had a really bad day, and that when they heard that music alleviated them. So today, for these Tales of Laughing Fox, I'm going to talk about the love medicine behind the flutes. And, you know, we have the sacred drum up here, which represents the heartbeat of Mother Earth. You know, it's the first song that we hear when we're in our mother's womb is that heartbeat, you know. And these flutes are just as ancient as that. They're right up there with the rain stick. You know, every culture around the world has drum, has rain stick, and has some sort of flute. That being said, I'd like to, the next song I would like to share with you, I learned in the woods by Lake Superior, and it's called Ajitamo Waning, which means squirrel tail. And as I was in the woods, you know, a lot of times I didn't play. A lot of times I just listened. You know, I just listened to my environment. I listened to the wind through the trees. I listen to that, you know, I see sunlight coming through the canopy, and I go and I stand in it, and I feel it, and then I play it a little bit. And as I was doing this, there were squirrels out into the woods, and I was listening to them chitter and chatter back and forth. So then I started to do that with the flute, and I started to imitate them, thinking that they would run off and run away. But they didn't. They actually got curious, and they came up, you know, and they were probably wondering, you know, who this huge squirrel is in their territory, you know. But this is the song that they had given me that day, and it's called Ajitamo Waning, which means squirrel tail. Chimigwich. Yes, it takes a lot of energy to drum out some of these songs that we're sharing with you today. And I'd like to thank again, once again, Big Top and all the sponsors and for having given us a platform to come up and share our music and culture. So Chimigwich to that. Soft heartbeat there, yeah. I was thinking about my time in the woods, you know, and I spent a lot of it out there. And you know, I really like to tell folks, you know, about the beauty of the area up here and how important it is that we keep our environment pristine up here. You know, it's very important, especially now. And so a while ago, I wrote a poem that I call "Song for the Seasons," and today I'll be sharing that with you. It's more like a love story for Lake Superior and all the four seasons. Song for the Seasons. Do you remember the night? The stars, they sang to the earth. The sky turning this red haze, and the lights from the north come out to play. The world is spinning through infinite time. When does it slow to show people how to see, how to breathe? Wonder, wonder, the raindrops splash against my lids. Awake to a single space, embrace. And the wind take the leaves on a ride. Circles and circles that meet the moon and the tides. Lakes of waves crash to the shores and rocks. A warm spray on a summer's night. My fingers wiggle through wet hair. The sound of the sun rising, making all things grin within. Night, fire stars come to life, stars born of earth. Mother, am I safe? Full moons come and go, and with them the lakes that spray, the frozen rain that melts on my face, the lake frozen in its place, and the wind take the snowflakes on a ride, circles and circles that meet my frozen exhale. Embrace, my eyes close until the sun wakes me.
Well, it's my pleasure now to bring you Laughingfox, and we wanted to do a couple of things before we even get the interview underway here. First of all, I just wanted to compliment you on the lighting that you've got there. That must be a special lens that creates that gauzy, mysterious effect. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, well my computer wasn't working right, so I had to resort to my phone, and after dropping my phone a few times, there's a little crack that appeared over the left-hand side of it. So that's what we're seeing as a flare, a lens flare there.
Very nice. Well, we'll just pretend it's a very fancy app.
Oh, yes.
It's a nice light. So where are you coming to me from right now?
We are live and up in Red Cliff, Wisconsin. It's about 3 miles north of Bayfield on Lucky Highway 13, where everyone's a winner.
I've run it many times myself, sometimes even as a winner. So I was told by a little bird that you do some baking as well. That if
Yes, yes. That was an interesting story, with the baking. I went to school for a while in La Crosse, Wisconsin, as a chemist and a microbiologist for a little while. And I acquired some of these skills on growing microorganisms in the lab. Well, when I got back to Bayfield, one of my friends needed help with his bakery and invited me down for the mornings. And I started to get the yeast going. It was just like growing bacteria. So it was just like a second nature to me. And since helping him out now, I currently have about 17 years of baking experience behind me.
that's amazing, and I love the origin of that. I have a nursing degree, and I wound up writing and performing, and I always am fascinated when someone takes their original education and then kind of gives it half a twist and finds their place. That's tremendous. There's a story that someone asked me to have you tell that I just love to hear your version of it too. You do an installation up at the Big Top grounds every year. And it was my understanding that one of the things you do is in the process of that installation, you work with young kids. And there's a story that when you play your squirrel song, the squirrels come, and then there's a sort of a punchline to that story. I'd love to hear that story in your own words.
Yeah, the squirrel story. So when I first started playing Native American flute, this was also about 17 years ago. I started to learn in the woods, and I would sit there and listen. That was the first part of my flute lessons, was just to listen. And I would listen to the trees, the wind through the trees, the light coming through the canopies, and all the noises that all the animals were making. So I started to imitate that squirrel, and it didn't scare these squirrels away. They started calling back to me, and I thought that for sure after seeing that that wasn't a big squirrel, that they would run away and leave me, and they didn't. They just got curious, and it came up close, and it became a very surreal experience because I was in my younger flute playing days trying to figure it out. So I'd call to them in the woods. And then that's how the squirrel song came into being. Just out there imitating the animals, and they became my teachers because I still can't read music or write it. So I kind of just feel it, and I very appreciative to my four-legged brothers and sisters for teaching me some of the songs out there.
I have a couple of questions about that. I find that fascinating about not reading music. I know other musicians who can't read music and yet play professionally, play all the time. And I'm very much intrigued by your approach, which is, I think sometimes, and this could be a Western tradition thing, who knows, but a lot of us approach music with the idea that we're going to impose our structure on it. And your approach is the exact opposite. You just waited for the music. It sounds to me anyway, if I'm interpreting what you said correctly, you waited for the music to impose itself on you and just followed.
Yeah, it all started just with a breath, a deep breath, breathing in, and then slowly blowing it into the flute to get that first note. And I was so enraptured with that first note that I sat in the woods for a couple hours just blowing that one note, and letting the music resonate through me, and then after that, I started going on different notes. But I remember reading some things about like Mozart and Beethoven having, you play them for plants, and these plants grow more vivid, more vibrant.
Mm.
And I thought the same way from my own soul, being pooled in this resonating sound of this voice that's, thousands of years old, echoing through this wood and this tradition, you know.
So when we're seeing you on stage in the Tiny Tent Show episode, how much does a piece change from time to time, or is it ever the same, or do you have a general structure in your mind that you're following?
Yeah, there is a sort of a structure. I was born and raised on the Red Cliff Reservation, and I learned a lot of drumming and dancing. And through the drumming and singing part of it, we sing about four times through on a song, and that's kind of the structure that I use for my flute. Judging the time wise, like I'll go through one full thing, and then I can repeat that, and then I feel it too. I feel my audience, and I'm with them, breathing with them while they're listening.
Oh, that's wonderful. There's nothing like that real-time interaction with the audience. Just to take my initial question full circle. So um, the story that I heard is that you were working with some young children and you explained to them that when you play the squirrel song, the squirrels come. When you play the bird song, the birds come. And then a young audience member piped up and said something. I don't know if you remember that.
Um, Geez, I don't remember that, but
And
I know I was.
I'll be happy to tell it, and then you can tell me if it's true story.
Yeah, please.
You told the kid, if I play the squirrel song, the squirrels come, and if I play the bird song, the birds come. And some little kid said, "Well, don't play the bee song."
Yes, I remember that. Yeah, it was in the Wigwam educational teaching up there.
And talk a little
How
bit about,
funny.
by the way, too, the Wigwam project.
Oh yeah, the Wigwam project. I look at it more like a time machine. It kind of brings us back to a place of coming together around that fire and living in a circle your whole life and generations of people before you. It's a whole different societal way, and I think it's a more wholesome, sharing type of way, because we all had that survival, is what, ultimately in the end that we had to do was survival. And everybody in that wigwam around that fire became you know became a part of that, whatever skills they brought. They were very oh, I'm missing the word here. But the teachings around the circle and around the wigwam, just like I said, are like a time machine, and they bring us back to a place, a traditional place, a more wholesome place, and yeah.
I think that's something that I know you're working toward as well, putting together performances and even potentially a full-length show about the history of your people and delivering that via performance.
Yeah, we're hoping to get into a show next summer, hopefully. Called Anishinaabe. Yeah, fingers crossed, Anishinaabe. But we'll look at, like, the time frames right now, and we're going back to, like, from the beginning. We'll start, maybe with the creator's voice, and then go into some of our traditional stories, and hit some significant timeline kind of things. Like, I would like to go all the way back to when they found Lake Superior
Mm.
copper 5,000 years ago in Mexico. The trade lines that were established here for, how many generations and generations, and just the wealth of knowledge that that our people, once had. Not just people, on Turtle Island, but people throughout the world, indigenous populations moving, nomadic tribes moving and trading with one another. Because back in those days, we didn't have a jail system, and we didn't have any laws, and we didn't have anything structured like that. No structured school systems, just what we lived and learned from the land, and that helped us, that helps balance us when we can truly live within harmony, you know, with Mother Earth and nature. And that's one thing our technology has not been able to do for us at all.
Well, and that leads me to think about the flute that you play. That you are literally interacting with nature when you make music with that flute. If I can ask a very specific question, what kind of wood is that flute, the one that we're seeing in tonight's performance?
Tonight's performance, every flute has a spirit, and it has its own voice and has its own story. And I'll be playing a multiple um, variety of flutes tonight, made from birch wood, which is a hardwood, which makes the flute more of a whistle,
Mm.
because it's not, the breath isn't passing through the wood fibers and the wood grains. And then with our cedar, it's so soft and porous that when you breathe through it, it just resonates through all that fiber of that wood, giving that haunting melody,
Mm.
you know. That it resonates. I just love it.
Well, you may not be able to read music, but you just proved you're a full-on musician, because you sound just like some of my buddies raving about their guitars and the different shapes and the resonance of the wood. So I think, by way of wrapping up the interview here and getting back to your performance, um, first of all, just grateful that you're sharing what you're sharing with us. It's important, it's moving, it's educational. On the other hand, I also, as much as I love to have these reflective discussions and cultural discussions, I also like a little humor now and then. And I watch these shows before I record them. And you snuck a little something in there that really tickled me. And I think it'd be a good way for us to close this interview. I have a habit when I say goodbye to people of saying we don't say goodbye. We say, well, I suppose. And I would just encourage folks to hear your version of that now.
Well, the Anishinaabe up in this area, with the Anishinaabe language, we don't really have a word for goodbye. We just say, well, gigawabamin.
Perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. I really appreciate it.
Oh, man, I love it. Love your stuff too. I watch this all the time, and I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds so cool. The way you make it flow and everything. Oh, just
Yeah,
awesome. Good job.
good folks behind the scenes doing that. My job is easy.
Oh, yeah.
I just show up with my perfect Hollywood smile. Farmer. All right. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Miigwech.
See you down the road. You bet. I enjoyed that conversation with Laughingfox. Afterward, he did ask me just to mention that the Red Cliff Band of Ojibwa trace their ancestors back to the east, to the saltwater. And he talked about the fact that their history has it that they were enduring a time of suffering and they had to move. And so they followed a vision of a giant shell in the sky. And they would follow the vision of the shell until that vision faded, and then they would stop. And that's how they progressed until at one point the vision of the shell faded above what we know now as Madeline Island. And so he just wanted me to mention that the folks joining him on stage tonight, the Little Turtle drum group and singers, they too trace their history back to that legend, and they have been drumming and singing next to the big lake. They are people of the water. They are people who fish for decades and decades. And so I draw your attention again to the Little Turtle drum group joining Laughingfox tonight.
All right, everybody, we're going to do a little hand drumming now up here. As the Little Turtle Singers get ready, a little background info on the Little Turtle Singers. been drumming together many years. We grew up together on the shores of Lake Superior. Attended many Anishinaabe camps, or Ojibwe camps, or language camps. And from there, we've met many other Native Americans from all across the United States. And when we come to a gathering, you know, we come together and we share music and song. And once again, it's always an honor to do that. So Chimigwich out there. So we're keeping with the theme of love, and the Native American love flute is perfect for that. This next flute I'm going to play for you was given to me before I made a trip to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And the person that gave it to me said that they knew I was going down there, and they wanted to send this with me to bring it back to where it was from. And, you know, I was honored to get such a gift. So I made my way down to New Mexico, you know, and I started studying down there different things. And one of the things I came across was a flute player by the name of Kokopelli. And he was one of the earliest recorded flute players here in the Americas. And he was able, as I studied, he was able to bring people together, you know, through music. He couldn't speak the language of all those southern tribes. You know, you got so many different tribes down there, the Zuni, the Pueblo, the Hopi, you know, all these people down there. But he played the music, and he was able to bring people together. And now you see Kokopelli all over the place. Some he has corn stalks coming out of his back, but he's hunched over. He's playing. So while I was down there, I was learning these things, and I found a book of music that had 40 different songs from 40 different countries all around the world. And I thought to myself, you know, if I can visit these countries, you know, I may not be able to speak their language, but I'll be able to speak a little bit of their music. And in doing that, that'll show them that I respect them and their culture. So one of the first, when I opened up the book, it was all flute music, and it was flute tablature, which is great for me. And the first song that I see is a Palestinian love song called Thy Own True Love. So I practiced the fingering and stuff, and I played it over and over. And this is my version of a Palestinian love song called Thy Own True Love. Chimigwech. That was Palestinian love song, Thy Own True Love. I recorded that on a version of my new album entitled Looking Back, Tales of Laughingfox. Oh, I'm sure you'll be able to find that available with Big Top Chautauqua. Nice. Wish, Little Turtle. At this time, I'd like to take a minute here and recognize the Little Turtle singers. Here in the white shirt, we have Jeremy Defoe. Here in the blues, here we have Edward Bressette. And then over here in the tank, we have Frank the Tank Morris. Chimigwech to Little Turtle for coming out and singing some honor songs and some side steps and some of that good old traditional Anishinaabe stuff. And the next flute that I would like to share with you, it is in the theme of love. And the story that comes along with it is I was actually playing up here at Big Top one night, and I met the godfather of the flute, who happens to be Carlos Nakai. And I sat down with him and had a meal with him and talked with him and his wife. And I was looking for pointers. Here's this famous guy, and flute music, all over the world. And I was just, kind of amazed, like, oh, wow. So there I am, and I'm saying, do you got any, information you can give to me as a young flute player, And he just told me, no, whatever you're doing, he's like, it's fine. I was like, well, I can't read music, I can't read your book. And he's like, oh, you don't need that. He's like, you're doing fine, I hear it. You just keep practicing who you are, and that's it. I was like, oh, wow. I was like, well, that's kind of, I'm kind of doing that already, so wow. And he said, well, I will give you some advice. And I said, oh, all right. He goes, beware the woman that gets you a flute. And I was like, really? Like, why? And he's like, because I married the one that gave me one. And I looked over at his wife, and she's smiling and giggling, and, they're smiling and giggling together. Anyways, we had a really nice show up here at Big Top. And then it was like a few months later, the girl I was dating at the time, she said, hey, I have something for you. I have a gift for you. And I was like, oh, really? Wow, what is it? I was all excited. She's like, here, open it up. And I was all suspicious because it was in a box. And I'm like, all right, I open the box up. I pull out the gift, and it's a flute. And all of a sudden, Carlos Nakai's words echo in my head. Beware the woman that gives you a flute. I heard that in my head, going on. And so there I am looking at the flute, and I'm looking at the girl I'm dating. I'm like, oh, thank you. And, it's kind of a love story, but kind of not, because her name is Mainga Nakwe, which means the wolf woman. And my name is Bapewa Gush, which means laughing fox. And my English name is Michael Scooter Charette. And everything was going fine between Wolf Woman and Laughing Fox till one night on a full moon, Wolf Woman tried to eat Laughing Fox. True story. I got away with my life and with my tail and with this flute. And I never play the flute on a full moon in case she calls back. This song is called Wolf Woman, Mainga Nakwe. Chimiguich. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. True story about that song, though. Like in the story, I play the flute with nothing but that feeling of love. You know what I mean? And sometimes things don't work out and they don't go the way we planned. But there's always these places that we can go to where we can find hope and happiness. And a better outlook on the way things are currently. But I like to use the flute as just that, the healingness of it. This next flute is a homemade flute by one of my friends, tribal member John Hebert. So I'd like to say Chimiguich. This flute I like to affectionately call Shapeshifter because at one point of this flute, you can see right here, it looks a little bit like a fish. It looks a little bit like Gigu, the fish. And when we have it in this way, up this way, and then we can see the flute actually shape shift a little bit into a kuku, which in the English language means owl. The Ojibwe word for owl is kuku. And then on the top of the flute, I have, reminds me of a cloud because it looks like a horse shape-shifting into an eagle, or vice versa, shape-shifting into something else. And I swear it shape-shifts all the time. All the time I'm finding different hidden things within this flute. So this next song I call Shapeshifter. This next flute I have to share with you is a double drone flute. I always like to play this double drone flute as kind of like one of my ending songs, one of my finishing it up kind of songs. On We have two of the exact same flutes, all carved out, exactly the same. So it creates the exact same droning sound. Some of the things that I play, they don't have a title because when I'm learning the song, it's usually like in the moment. And when I'm in the woods in the moment and I'm listening to a stream and I'm listening to the wind through the trees, it's hard to take that and to put a title to that. So the song or the story of this flute is I was at an airport in Philadelphia, and I was stuck there for Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. I was out visiting my daughter, and wherever I go, I bring the flute with me now. It never leaves my side. It's always right there, just like a Jedi lightsaber would be. And there I was, out of my element in Philadelphia at an airport, surrounded by, who knows what's going on, and I sat there and I played just like I would, and I just played and I closed my eyes and I opened them up, and I noticed that people in the airport, they're going from point A to point B. They're moving really quickly, they're not taking that moment, like the flute story, they take that moment. And as I'm sitting there playing, these people are going by and they're stopping and they're slowing down, and I notice that they're people from all over the world, So there I am communicating with these people on a deeper level than what the language can offer us. As I'm fantasized by that, by like, whoa, nice. So I keep playing and I close my eyes, and it's just like traveling time because it brings me right back into the woods, And after playing for about a couple hours with my eyes closed, I opened them up again and realized there was a circle of people around me. And as I looked at these people closer, I noticed that they were in a bad way, very dirty, dirty clothes. They were homeless people, and I'm from the Northwoods. I'm up here in the woods. We don't have too much of that, so I'm really out of my element. So I get done playing, and I see these people in a circle around me, and I'm amazed again at what the flute music is doing. And as these people begin to disperse, one of them comes up to me, and he goes, "Hey, man, my name's Curtis." He's like, "Good flute playing, man." And I was like, "Oh, thank you, Curtis. My name is Laughingfox." And he kind of looked at me really weird, and he goes, "Hey, man." He goes, "How did you know my name was Curtis?" And I kind of looked around, and I was like, "Oh, man, I'm not in the woods anymore, am I?" So I just kind of like said, "Oh, hey, well, Curtis, blah, blah, blah." And I kind of put the flute back up to my lips, and I just kept playing and closed my eyes again. But the song that came from that encounter, it really doesn't have a name to it. It just has that story to it. And this is the flute voice. Aho, Chimigwich. And thank you all for giving me the honor to come up and to share the Anishinaabe culture and music and flutes with you. Thank you to the folks at the Big Top and the Tiny Tent radio show. Big music in the Tiny Tent. Aho, Chimigwich. Giga Wabamin. Chimigwich to the Big Top in the Tiny Tent radio show. Big tent, or big Tiny Tent, big music. Tiny Tent show. You got it. You know it.
Well, folks, that's our Tiny Tent show for tonight. A special thank you to Michael Laughingfox Charette for bringing us the songs and stories of his people. We miss you, but we also look forward to getting back together with you again on the other side of this whole situation. We're glad that you take the time to visit with us via electronics, as you are doing right now. We don't take your time and attention for granted by any means. We also want to be sure to thank the sponsors who bring you Tiny Tent Show: Washburn Hardware, Brownstone Pharmacy, Peggy and Sheldon Goldberg, Northland College alumni, Lulich Implement, Jim and Joy Perry. And so off we go. I hope you're taking good care of your neighbors. I hope they're taking good care of you. The time has come for us not to bid you adieu or say goodbye, but rather to do what we always did back where I'm from, and that is to say, well, I suppose, forward.